Last time I saw you was at the penny slots at the Reno airport. You were down so bad they comped your lunch at the Chili's to go. You were always down, but you were never out.
I'll never forget what the mayor of Reno said to me. Don't come back.
Thank you for letting me see your short. It was fantastic.
Thank you for watching it.
Yeah, I'm telling people when I describe stuff, the way I'm going to describe your short is, this is how I imagine supervillains dating.
Yeah. Like who? What kind of supervillain?
Really, really bad ones, apparently. But yeah, some interesting. There's some interesting back and forth that goes on in this.
It does have a sort of a nefarious tone.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a parody of an erotic thriller, 1990s erotic thriller, and I love the genre. I think it's so fun, and and I love that there's a sort of a dangerous quality to almost the most mundane things, just like picking up a glass. It's like the strings, and you know, so. Yeah, I love that about the genre. Yeah, it's got an edge.
Yes, absolutely. Great, that's great. I love that. It definitely has an edge. I'm curious about the design of it and how you guys came about it, because you guys have a UCB background. Did you guys work this on a sketch and kind of work it through and kind of figure out these characters and kind of flesh them out, or were these characters inherently in you and you just said, you know, let's film this while we've got it going?
Great question. So David Ebert and his wife Krista Jensen, they wrote this as a sketch originally. Actually, David wrote it originally. He was in LA for pilot season, and his wife was in New York. And as he likes to say, he's bad at love letters, so he wrote this sketch for her to say, I miss you so much, because they're both improvisers and comedians and actors, and so then they started doing it as a sketch at UCB, and you know, as foreplay, I'm sure, in the bedroom. But yeah, and then David and I were looking for something to work on together. We had worked together on some commercial projects, and some other projects, and we were looking for something to work on together, and he sent me the script, and I was like, this is insane. I love it so much. And I had been watching a lot of sexual thrillers at the time, and I was like, this sketch would actually be really fun in that tonal setting. So we sort of put what was a sketch that didn't have that tonal stuff, and put it into that sort of into that world. The sexual thriller world.
Nice. I'm curious about the framing and the aspect of putting this together, because there's a lot of switch shots, there's a lot of cuts, and then there's times when you cut, but then you pan around, and I'm curious about the design and how you came up with the design, because it is two people and it's going back and forth like that. Was it timing? Was it something that you just kind of?
We had it pretty the shot list pretty well mapped out, but you know, this was also something we did on a shoestring budget. That, I mean, the entire crew was myself, the director, David, his wife, the talent, and then we had a DP, wonderfully talented director of photography, Jordan Perot, and then we had a gaffer, and we had a sound person, and like a producer, and that was it. That was our whole crew, and we all just stayed at like an Airbnb in the Poconos that we didn't tell that we were filming, and we didn't have an art person, and we didn't change anything in that cabin.
That's awesome.
But we like looked at a bunch of photos of Airbnbs online, and then we saw that couch with the love
cup
seat
holders.
with the cup holders, and I was like, yes, I'll take it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I think that couch really embodies that sort of like ridiculousness of the era, and really beautifully. And I think especially putting a candle into the cup holder, it like really just like embodies the whole silliness of the genre.
I should warn you, I'm not the woman I was. I've done things. Things I'm not proud of.
No one's done things they're proud of.
I've been married 4 times.
Everyone's been married 4 times.
I was married to one of the boys from Brazil.
The Hitler clones?
But this one was different. No, he wasn't.
In terms of how we mapped out the shots, I mean, we really just had that, you know, the scene takes place in, it's 8 minutes, and it all takes place in one room, which is a really long time to spend in one place. So we were just, I like work that is less cutty. I don't like to get super cutty, but we did want it to feel like there was a sense of movement, and that even though it was a small journey, there was still like a journey that happened in that small space.
Sure. And there's a great shot where you guys come in a door and out the other door, and it's like that was really nice.
That was so silly. Yeah, we just did that through comping.
Yeah.
But split screen. But yeah, actually the blocking, funny enough, they've Krista and David have 2 beautiful children. When we filmed it, they just had one, and we rehearsed some of the blocking without having been to the house in my apartment in Brooklyn, like with their kid on my lap and them in my living room, just like rolling around on the floor, and it was wonderful. And then we went to the space and kind of figured it out. What does it look like? We figured out the blocking of the whole scene first before, going in and executing.
Knowing your background, was there any improvisation in this? Because it seemed pretty scripted, but...
It was actually fairly scripted. There was, I think, maybe 2 lines that were improvised. There was a lot of improv that happened that went on the cutting room floor. But I think especially when you have a premise that is so insane, it's like you can't really veer too much from it, because it gets complicated to veer from it, because it's actually the precision is actually really important. But what was it? When David Ebert says I'll never forget what the mayor of Reno said. Never come back. I think that line was fully improvised, and it makes me laugh every time.
Him going in the cheese dip was like, that just cracked me up.
Amazing.
I thought that was so funny. Of course, I never found I found the book, but it was useless now. But I ate all the cheese.
And then there was one other line that was improvised that I wanted it to work so badly. That was like, you were with a man once. His name was Michael Keaton. David said that randomly, and then kind of went on about it was before Batman 1989, but I forget what he said. There was some film nerd specificity that was very, very funny, and I was just like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard, and it was making me die on set, but it took away from the game. So you gotta kill your babies.
Was it hard to keep straight faces at times in some of these things? I mean, some of the things are so outlandish and so out there, and it just...
I'm sure I ruined a couple takes laughing. I always do. I'm the worst.
I'm curious too. There's a rumor going around that this was actually designed as a feature film, or is being touted to be a feature film.
It wasn't designed to be a feature film. I think it started as a little sketch, but then we just started falling in love with the world and the characters, and so we have David and Chris have written a very, very, very funny screenplay that we are gonna make into a feature film.
Nice.
But yeah, it's interesting because the stakes of a sexual thriller are usually just there's a whodunit sometimes involved, but it's usually just will or will they not have sex,
right.
which is we really distilled, I think, in the first one, but we need the added layer in order to sustain an audience for a feature length. We have really high stakes, and we're leaning into not just the sexual thriller tropes, but also neo-noir and noir tropes of whodunits and that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about that.
It's interesting too because the characters are so rich and deep, and it is, while it is a parody or a mockery, it is not taken as such. You guys really invest in the character, and you give us some design into the audaciousness of them, the wickedness of them in some instances, and so I'm curious, was that really something that you guys really concentrated on? Was it focus? Was merely let's focus on making the depth of this character so that it brings out the jokes hit harder and
Well, yeah, I think that just speaks to Krista and David's acting ability. I think that they and their comedic ability of just fully committing, and living in it, and I mean, and they were method the whole time we were at the Airbnb. I mean, it was, no, I'm just joking. It was very uncomfortable. No, but I think, they're just, when you commit to something hard enough, it just becomes believable.
It does.
But and I know for a fact that they both approach their characters in a way that there's always at its core an emotional understanding of what the character wants, and it's not just saying things randomly.
Was the lighting manufactured with the candles, or was it mostly just the lighting that
we augmented we did have a lot of candles on set. I'm sure it was a huge fire hazard, but it was
especially the last scene.
Yeah. But we had and then we had the fireplace going for some of the shots, and then we also had a fireplace kind of gag that the DP and the gaffer had set up that was really lovely, and I think added a nice life and movement to it with just the flicker of the flames on their faces.
What do you enjoy about being an indie filmmaker? What is it about being indie that you really just cherish?
Wow. It's like I like being so obscure. No, I just I love. God, I don't know. I just love being. I love that I get to make funny stuff with my friends. I mean, it's the best thing ever. It's all I want to do. I love it. It's I get to play pretend for. But it's an adult activity. It's great.
That's awesome. And now, as a filmmakers, we tend to be the harshest critics of ourselves. We look at our work and we realize that we could watch this over and over again and realize we did something wrong, or let's cut here, or this take should have been longer. I don't want to know any of that from you. What I want to know from you is what you think you nailed.
Oh, wow. I think we nailed a lot. I think just like they committed so hard to the characters, we just committed so hard to building that world, and I think it's just fun to create a weird little universe. But I think I'm proud of how well the music turned out. We just cobbled to. Frankly, it was kind of difficult at first to figure it out. We tried making an original composition, but fundamentally I wanted to honor the tropes of erotic thrillers, so I really just wanted it to sound essentially like Basic Instinct, but we couldn't afford to license that. So I just looked on Pond 5 and was looked for stuff that sounded like Basic Instinct, so just found stuff that was basically rips of that, and then we cobbled together 25 tracks to create something that I think it works really well. Yeah.
I agree. It works very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your interpretation of the screenplay and putting that out there too. I mean, these characters, I'm sure, have incredible history, and we might learn more about them and possibly in the screenplay. I don't know, but
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot there. It starts with a murder, a lot of stakes,
Nice.
a lot of mystery, a lot of sexual tension. It's great. What else do you want?
It was you.
We needed the money.
Tonight! This room is our holy chapel. Sins do not follow us inside. Wait! Ufinda, there's something else.